There are 1,000,000 ways to die. We just wanna talk about it. CodeHeads.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, last week we had such a rich and robust conversation with Alyssa that we are going to be continuing it today. So we have her back once again, and we're going to get into breath work and even more. So
Yeah,
let's get to it.
let's hop on it. So let's talk a little bit though about like the breath work and how you kind of prepare yourself and if
Yeah.
you want to share with your out of body experience, I think that would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
cool.
Well, so I said my husband has been big into Wim Hof and all, like he's been practicing meditation much longer than I have. Has always sworn by, and I was actually very stubborn to be like, yeah, like I'll try it one day. But
Is that
then
why
when I
he's so
found out,
chill?
huh?
Is that why he's so chill?
Probably. Well, not all the time, but he's very ADHD. That's probably why you guys get along well. But I
Like,
think it helped him to calm his brain because he just functions at such a high rate all the time. So basically, I feel like I saw like a random ad one time for a girl here, and I live in Jupiter now, and she talked about like nervous system regulation, and I was like, oh, I guess that sounds because I had a lot of issues after Walker, my first baby, was born, because I never had anxiety ever, but I ended up having severe postpartum anxiety after he was born, which I felt like I had all these tools that I felt like I could help myself, but it felt bigger than me. So first of all, I didn't even know postpartum anxiety was like a thing. I heard of postpartum depression, but
no
never
one talks about
anxiety.
it.
It's
Yeah.
like, why do I feel like I'm fearing death every moment and that my child is going to die at every moment
It's
of the
so
day?
common. It is so common and no
I
one.
know.
Yeah.
So I feel like at the time I ended up going on Zoloft, and I'm so thankful for that experience, and I share that openly. Like I could not have gotten to a better, more stable place without that by any means. But then also like we had both of our kids back to back, so we had Reagan before Walker, like the week after he turned 1. So it was a little crazy. And I feel like I was a little bit better that time around. But then once the kids got a little bit older, once they got to be about 2 and 3, I was like, I want to kind of get back to me. Like I felt like me as an anxious person, feeling like my kids were going to die every second of the day because X, Y, and Z was going to happen and the world was crumbling and all these things was so far from who I've always been. So I was like, I want to get back to that. So I made it my mission to just be intentional about learning who I was, like coming back down from the anxiousness that was postpartum and just being a little bit more, okay, how can I be more proactive about this? So when I saw this sign of like nervous system resetting and breath work and whatnot, I'm like, I'll give it a go. So I did my first one in a group setting and it was really cool. But I remember sitting afterwards with her. So I'd love to do this one on one to get a little bit more deeper because I know that I can connect with people that have passed. I know I've always been a very intuitive person that has been able to channel and, have these dreams and whatnot. So I was like, I wanted to, after I did a couple sessions, go a little bit deeper and experience it a little bit further. So my husband and I did one-on-one or couples basically session with her. And first we did the microdose of actual mushrooms. And I think we were with her for about 2 hours. So the first hour is just that very intentional, deep breaths, long exhale. So I've never say this right, over oxygenating. Was that how you'd say it properly?
Yeah, you're hyperoxygenating. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're getting a whole different experience from the breath work. But then I always would have this kind of a whole another experience on the other side when I went to normal breathing of like a hypnosis, basically, where I felt a little bit outside of my regular body, but I was receiving messages. And the way I can only explain it is we call it like your mind's eye. So it's not like a movie screen that I would see these very vivid, like even a little bit different than a vivid dream. It felt like a memory almost. So it was more like it was like a internal film, like just kind of running in my brain. And I had these really cool things that kind of came to my mind. I'm like, whoa, this makes sense. Like to get back to yourself, Alyssa, like I had these thoughts of X, Y, and Z of what I need to do to kind of reconnect to my soul and my spirit. So anyway, once we did the full psychedelic trip, it was about 5, 6 hours. And that was the first time I had no expectations because I've never done anything like that. But going through that experience, I was dealing with them falling out with a friend. And I had these very strong messages of like our souls connecting. So I was really struggling with that. It felt very heavy and I just had a hard time getting past it. And when I finally got to that place in my mind, I had this dream like that. It felt like a dream, that we kind of reconnected, our souls reconnected. And I had this image of a time that we had spent together a long time ago. And then from there, I kind of felt like I slowly started to like leave my body. And that felt so real to me that like it's funny how the conscious mind says like, are you breathing, Alyssa? Like, don't go too far, because like you don't leave your body because like, what if you stop breathing? Like, you
Huh.
won't be in good shape. So that did kind of kept coming in my mind, but I also knew I was kind of capable. Like each time I did this before, I felt like I was going further and further away. And then after I had that experience with my friend, I connected with my dad and I felt like I was up in heaven with him. And I was like, I just remember I kept saying like, I want to go, I want to go. But I was afraid. I felt like a tether, like I wanted to come back to the body, but I wanted to go with him. So after like 3 hours of getting to go, feeling like I was spending time with my dad again. And I had all of these weird images come through from like ancestors and just like these spirit animals and guides and just like it felt very beautiful and very safe and very reassuring, but it felt like otherworldly, but not in a like if I was in college like on a like mushroom trip, it was just like it felt like I was receiving information that I needed to hear and I wanted to hear. So basically after 5 hours had passed, like I heard her name is Jessie, she was trying to kind of pull me out of this state. And I remember thinking like I didn't want to go. And I remember thinking like I wanted to tell her like I can't come back. I can't come back because I didn't feel like I was in my physical body. And I was worried that I wasn't breathing, but I was like, she would know that if I wasn't breathing or not, right? So I remember like after about 20 minutes, started like moving, kind of squeezing my arms. She kind of like was rubbing on, my like feet and my legs because I was having a hard time coming back to the physical body. Because why would I want to? I was like up in heaven with my dad. It was so cool.
Right.
So it was interesting that made me feel kind of what you guys were explaining about how these near death experiences that people leave the body but come back. And it was kind of like my human way of intentionally doing that, which was kind of interesting.
I find that fascinating. And so then after that, do you feel like that impacted, kind of who you are and like how you felt like moving forward? Like, was that like kind of like almost like a life-changing event for you? Or do you feel like because you've been preparing yourself so much, it's just like something that you get to keep in your heart and like,
I know. And
is
I think it was just more substance to the life I was already searching for, where it sounds like when you guys were discussing on the last episode about how near death experiences, it's like very profound. Like these people have never even probably fathomed that this was
Right.
something that they could experience. Like I was already prepared for it. So it was just like a beautiful blessing that just added to my development. So it wasn't this profound message, like I didn't find God, or whatever that,
Yeah.
people kind of I mean, I felt him, but it's like was nothing too crazy from what I've already experienced in regular life.
I'm just so fascinated by that. I think it's so amazing and I think it's so cool. And I always take so much from, our patients that are, I always used to take care of, our patients when I was like at the bedside all the time. Like our like, patients that were passing. So the end of life patients. And, um, sometimes there were patients that were, waiting for someone to come or, and I would just sit there and talk to them and be like, okay, I'd be like, Johnny's on a flight. He'll be here in like an hour. So if you just hold on, but let's talk, and so I'd talk to them about like whatever. And, it's, it's not, there's things that, science can explain away and like all these different things. But, I've had too many different experiences where they did wait for that person and then they gave
Mhm.
them,
Yeah.
10 minutes and then they passed away. And like
Yep.
literally nothing happened other than, there are so many times that people are passing and it's like they're just waiting for that one person on earth and then they go.
Mhm.
When they have the luxury of time, it's not
Yeah.
traumatic or
Right.
anything like that. But it's, it's always so fascinating. And so I'm mind boggled and, maybe you can be my life coach, to get me, because I think it would be so cool to go the other way, to just go and have that, experience and maybe, I don't know, either maybe find closure or just
Yeah.
have, connect the dots in some way of something that feels missing in, in my earthly life.
Yeah.
to my, to my spiritual.
Well, I
And it
think like,
drives
oh,
optimism. What you just
yeah.
like that
Mhm.
connection enables, I think it would it globally foster that sentiment, just feeling optimistic and hopeful and sanguine about, the prospects of the future, just because, a lot of people it's a fear-based, they don't want the connection. They don't want to know about it because they're afraid, they're threatened.
Yeah.
And the communication, I'm hearing from you and from other, documents I've read, it's not more often than not, it's all positive. So
Mhm.
that's I find a sense of reassurance in that, and I would
Mhm.
hope others do too, as this becomes sort of more prominent and available, and the breath work is more prevalent. You do see everyone speaking of it in connection. So basically, I find that story, like Bridget said, just very inspiring.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also like I challenge people to say there's got to be a point at one little glimpse of something at some point in your life, probably when you're younger, that you're like, maybe that was. And then it's so quick that our brain shuts up and just is like, yeah, that was okay, whatever. And then you go on with your life. But the key word is like intention and awareness. So it's just you, like Bridget, you just said, it's like the first step is like getting kind of curious, but like taking proper steps to like make that a priority for yourself. And it takes work. Like it takes work. And I think that's like I always talk about reconnecting to myself, but everyone's like, yeah, whatever, like by making yourself happy and this and that. But like, no, who are you on a deep emotional, like soul level, like your essence, your authentic self? Like we've kind of lose sight of that based off of our trajectory of our life and our experiences. And I think our journey is, if we're capable of going there. And I think there's a difference between like old souls and young souls and advanced souls. And that's one thing that this guy, Michael Newton, talks about too, is like, I think sometimes people just can't get out of their own way. And they literally couldn't even fathom thinking this way. But if you are a more advanced soul, it's something that like you've lived many lifetimes, and it's not a crazy thought to start to work on these things. And but sometimes people aren't even capable. So I think that's kind of the whole mission is like, are we living in victimhood? Are we living in abundance? Are we living a life that we are capable of moving forward and like opening our minds to these things? And I totally respect if people can't. That's just who they are and how they are.
Right.
But I think there's at least one point in everyone's life that they're like, when that person passed, like maybe that was a weird sign or something like that. So if you have one glimmer of that, like tap into that.
And I think that's a great way to let our listeners kind of think about their own experiences and how they feel about this. And, reach out to us, you guys. Let us know what you think. If you think we're,
Cuckoo. Sorry.
we're
Well,
pushing
we are
the
that
limit.
too, but
Um, but there's something to this when we're dealing with life and death every day. You've gotta think about things outside of the scientific and the policies of the protocols and the things that drive us as clinicians. So a big, huge thank you to Alyssa for being with us.
Thank
I'm
thanks for having me.
yeah. Oh my God. Amazing. And, thank you all for listening as always. So on that note, we're gonna leave you with this.
There are 1 million ways to die. We just wanna talk